welcome to this episode of In Your Neighborhood. I'm your host, Jennifer Wakeman. Our first story tonight takes us to Catawissa, but you might think you're in Nashville, Tennessee. Michael Carl has been singing since he was a young child.
My family would gather there on Sunday afternoons. My aunts, my uncles, my cousins, friends would drop by, and it wasn't long until the guitars would come out and we would sit on the front porch 4 or 5 hours every Sunday and sing. The neighbors would come out on their front porches. They would be shouting song requests across the street, and that's what really started it back when I was 5.
He took accordion lessons as a child and after about 7 years was asked to join a round and square dance band. Eventually, he moved on to a variety band that did country and oldies. By then, Michael had taught himself to play the piano, so for 11 years he was the keyboardist and the lead singer. Years passed, life took over, and singing fell by the wayside. He met and married his wife Cecilia and, quite by accident, began singing all over again.
When I was working at Kmart, we had a karaoke host for our Christmas party. And I got up to sing, and while I was singing the very first song, I remember this lady going and sitting down to talk to my wife Cecilia. Had no idea who she was, and as soon as I sat down, she said, "We're having a karaoke contest this Saturday, and you will be there to sing."
That woman was Gail O'Rady. She and her husband Rick, along with Michael's wife Cecilia, encouraged him to enter contests. In 2002, he competed in the Colgate Country Showdown and was the Pennsylvania state champion. That win earned him a trip to the regional contest in Wheeling, West Virginia.
The local contest, they're sponsored by a radio station.
Okay.
And you fill your application out and go to the local contest. There you just use music tracks on CD and sing to that. There's judges, 3 judges, and the winner progresses on to the state finals. The state finals were held at Hershey Park, but for the state finals, you must sing with a live band. You have to submit your music ahead of time. You're allowed 7 minutes total for 2 songs, and you get to rehearse with the band for about 15 minutes before the contest starts. The same thing then for the regionals in Wheeling. You submitted your music ahead of time. You got 20 minutes to practice with the band from the Capitol Music Hall, and then you went out on stage that night during Jamboree USA. We were the opening act for the show that Saturday night. Sammy Kershaw was the headliner that night.
For the regional contest in Wheeling, West Virginia, Michael sang Conway Twitty's Hello Darlin' and Jack Green's Statue of a Fool. An article in Singer-Songwriter magazine propelled Michael to the next step of recording an album. Both of his records have been done at Hilltop Studios in Nashville, Tennessee, where he worked with music producer Tom Wilkerson, who has over 40 years of experience in Nashville.
Back in 2004, it's a 20-song album, and it's called Looking Back to the Future, 50 Years of Country Music. We went clear back to 1927, to the origins of country music, recorded country music, back to Jimmy Rogers.
The second album was a little different.
My latest album that we released last year is titled I Wish I'd Been There, a Grand Ole Opry tribute.
Cool.
And we took 9 songs from the Opry heyday back during the 50s through the 70s and redid those songs. And it's a little bit different of an album. It's a historical album because before every song, there's a 1 to maybe 1.5 minute narrative telling about that particular artist, a little bit about that particular song when it was first sung on the Opry and stuff like that.
That tribute to the Grand Ole Opry came from Michael's love of the Opry and the many performances he has attended over the years.
It's every country singer's dream to sing there someday. I've never had that opportunity, but we've been to Grand Ole Opry shows probably about 14 or 15 times. The very first one was in 1996, and, well, a little tidbit. I've got a memento inside of my hat right now. It's the ticket stub from the very first time I was to the Grand Ole Opry. And every time I sing, it moves from hat to hat. Whichever hat I'm wearing that night, that ticket stub's with me.
While he is signed with an independent music label out of Nashville, IMC Artists, Michael continues to participate in contests and is also making appearances at numerous events around the area.
I was in another it was almost like a karaoke contest at the Pat Garrett Amphitheater down in Strawstown, and won that contest and got the privilege of opening the show for George Jones that night. And got to meet George and his wife Nancy. Very, very wonderful people.
He has sung at the Country Music Festival at Kelly Crossroads, the Gordon Music Festival in Ashland, and this November he'll appear at a dinner show with Al and Jean Shade in Schaefertown, Pennsylvania. We had a terrific visit with Michael and Cecilia Carl. They are quite a team. She runs the equipment for most of his shows, and we were even treated to a mini performance in the backyard.
There goes my only possession. There goes my everything. I hear footsteps slowly walking as they gently walk across the lonely floor. And the voice is softly saying, darling, this will be goodbye forevermore. There goes my reason for living. There goes the one of my dreams. There goes my only possession. Oh, there goes my everything.
That song was the first one he sang back on his grandmother's front porch. And speaking of that porch, it appears on the cover of his first album, Looking Back to the Future. His grandmother and Aunt Frida on the front are shown standing on that very same porch where Michael began singing more than 40 years ago. And we were even lucky enough to get autographed copies of both of Michael's CDs. As I mentioned in the beginning, singing is just Michael's hobby. He works full-time at the Kohl's Hardware Warehouse. His CDs are available for purchase at Biter's Department Store in Danville or by emailing him at classiccountry@netzero.net. You'll want to be sure and attend the Montour DeLong Fair on Friday, August 14th and see one of Michael's 2 shows. How lucky we are to have such great talent right here in your neighborhood. Coming up after the break, we're going to take you on an outdoor adventure, and you won't believe how close it is. It's in your backyard.